Fancy living in Spain? Join the Language and Culture Assistance Program of the Education Office of the Spanish Embassy. It offers a fantastic opportunity to spend a school year in Spain as an assistant teacher, sharing your language and knowledge with Spanish students K through 12 and adults.
Con ella aprender inglés es estupendo. Chloe es la mejor.
I got medical insurance and a monthly allowance to help pay for accommodation and expenses, and I really think that this experience will help with my career in the future.
Spain also offers you amazing travel and cultural possibilities.
I couldn't have imagined this was going to be such a life-changing experience.
And what about the food?
And the lively streets.
And the wonderful people.
Yo he mejorado mucho mi español.
Don't miss this opportunity. Learn more about the Language and Culture Assistance Program of the Education Office of the Embassy of Spain.
And grow as you share.
Are we ready to go? All right. Good afternoon. Bonjour. Nalcap participants all across the United States, Canada, or wherever you may be today. My name is Jesus Fernandez. I'm the Education Counselor of Spain for the US and Canada. I have the privilege to lead a team of around 50 people in both countries, whose mission is to promote international education between both sides of the Atlantic. And in doing so, we promote the Spanish language and Hispanic cultures in the US and Canada, and the English and French languages, as well as their cultures in Spain. This is why in 2005, we started the North American Language and Culture Assistance Program, Nalcap, to bring native speakers of English to our elementary, middle, and high schools in Spain, so that they would help our local Spanish teachers of English and French in making the subject, a world language, more than just a sheer course in the curriculum, something alive. Since 2005, it's been some years now, more than 40,000 people have been part of the program. I guess that means something. That is what you're about to do, to go to Spain, to disembark in a big city or in a small village, to go into school, and to be the protagonist of a movie called An American, a Canadian, Teaching English or French in Spain. Or, according to Levi, our intern here at the embassy, who is way smarter than I am, from poutine to paella, or paella, from tater tots to tapas, bringing North America to Spain. I'm sure the kids in the schools are going to be thrilled by your presence. For some of them, you may be the first native speaker, English or French, they get in contact with. They'll be curious about how you pronounce words, about new words they can learn from you. They may even want to learn certain four-letter words, but these are not for you to teach. But more important than vocabulary and grammar, although they are definitely important, is showing them how English, French are spoken. That is, how you ask for things, how you flatter someone, how you apologize, how to chat about sports or music, how to express gratitude or disbelief, and so on and so forth. Languages are not just verbs, nouns, and prepositions. Languages are the way we express feelings, show doubts, agree and disagree, wonder about the world around us, etc., etc. Languages are tools to do things. Languages are what makes us human. On top of that, languages grow in certain cultural settings. And these kids will want to know about the US and Canada, about Thanksgiving and the NBA, about movies and singers, about cities and fashion. And you will be the door that leads them inside the US and Canada. I'm also sure that you're going to enjoy wonderful personal and professional experience. First, you will improve your Spanish language skills by being immersed in an all-around Spanish setting. But remember, you will have to be proactive. You do not learn a language just by breathing Spanish air. The subjunctive or surastar doesn't just are learned by breathing. You will have to pay attention to new words, new expressions, and ways of doing things by means of the language you're speaking. Please write things down, speak, make mistakes. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Learn from them. Do not be afraid. Second, you're going to encounter, go through, even endure new cultural experiences, different food, different ways of doing things, different ways of life. Some will surely appeal to you and some may be a bit strange. My only advice is to have an open mind, understand that different does not necessarily mean better or worse, and enjoy every minute of your stay in Spain wherever you're placed. And finally, I would like to thank my team for their excellent work, my team of advisors all across the US and Canada. I'm really proud of you all. I'm honored to lead this team. And I would like to mention today Javier, Eliseo, Jose Juan, Olga, Jesus, Katie, Riley, Jesse, Isa, and last but not least, Yolanda Zarate and Lisa Arias for leading the Nalcap group so steadily. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful stay in Spain and take care of yourselves.
Thank you so much for those wonderful welcoming remarks, Jesus. Welcome everybody to the 2023 Pre-Departure Nalcap webinar. We know you have a lot of questions and we're here to clarify them today during the time that we spend together. So I am going to begin sharing my screen to explain how we have thought of structuring the webinar, okay? So I hope everybody can see my screen. The webinar will be split into 3 different parts. In part 1, I'm going to address a few general topics that you should keep in mind. For part 2, we'll pass it over to our interns who are past and present language assistants. They have gone through the entire experience. So they're going to, everything that they're going to tell you is going to be extremely valuable. And then in part 3, we'll take some questions. We've chosen the topics based mainly on the questions you sent in when you signed up for the webinar and also from our email account. There are, of course, thousands of other questions, but many of those are either answered in the documents on our website or need to be addressed to other offices, especially your regional education office. Remember that once you get your placement, your questions should be addressed to them. And for visas, the questions should be addressed to the consulates, okay? I'd like to share with you that nearly 4,500 placements have been assigned as of today. For those of you who have not received a placement yet, know that there are still nearly 300 placements available, in addition to those left by people who withdraw from the program. So there's still a high probability of receiving a placement. Please note that this webinar will be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel. Could someone please put the link in our chat? And we will be sending out an email blast as well with the link of the recording. So if you miss something, you can always rewatch it and get all the information that you need. All right, so the interns will be discussing the 6 big topics, right? Cell phones and the internet, bank accounts, housing, NIE and BIE, transportation, and schools. Things related to class preparation, a typical day at school, these kind of things. We will be posting links in the chats for further information on things we discussed during the webinar. Once we finish discussing these 6 big topics, we will take a few questions, as I mentioned before, from the Zoom Q&A. So make sure you write them in there and not in the chat, and 1 or 2 from the YouTube live chat also. Okay, so let's begin. All right, so I want to start out explaining the different offices involved in the Nalcap program. I really feel that this will provide clarification about whom to reach out to if you have any questions or encounter roadblocks. Now, for example, I don't know if you know this, but Nalcap is just one part of the program that brings language assistance over to Spain. Nalcap is the name given to the program in the United States and in Canada, but you'll see that there are over 30 countries involved with many different languages, okay? So if we look at the diagram, as I just mentioned, Nalcap is the education office of the Embassy of Spain. What do? Well, we promote the program here in these 2 countries. We answer questions and we help and guide you during the application period, and then a little bit more as example of today's webinar. All right, then the Ministry of Education of Spain is involved by reviewing the applications, and they are the ones that assign the regional placements. So when you got that infamous email that you were waiting for, that you had 3 days to accept or not, that had your regional placement. It was telling you, well, you are offered a placement in Andalucía or in Galicia or in Castilla-La Mancha or in Castilla-León. And that was sent out by the Ministry of Education. Now, from there, it goes on to the regional education offices. And these offices really have a heavy load. They are the ones that assign the schools, and they send out your letters of acceptance. They provide the grants, and they provide the medical insurance. They offer an orientation session at the beginning of the school year. So once you receive your letter of acceptance, all further communication or general questions should be directed to these offices, just basically because they're the ones that know the answers, right? We have 17 different education offices in Spain, and they go about it in different ways. So it's important to contact them. And of course, last but not least, are the schools themselves. You should contact them as soon as you can. Speak to the coordinator. Many times they can provide a lot of helpful information, like looking for housing or DIAs or other information. And they will also be providing your schedule once you arrive at the school, okay? All right, so then there's other offices involved, and especially dealing with visas, right? Visas are handled by many different offices. They're handled by parts of it by American offices, by the consulates of Spain in the US and Canada, and by the Oficina de Extranjería once you are in Spain. Now, let me be clear. We are totally aware that this is a very frustrating process because there's many different offices, there's lots of information and a lot of paperwork involved. But please know that over 40,000 American and Canadian citizens have participated in the program, and you will get to Spain as well. Don't despair, okay? So let's talk about these different offices. The American offices, they handle the background checks and the apostilles. Apostilles are legalizations of documents. In this case, it's a legalization of the background check. The background check doesn't seem to be experiencing delays in the process, but the apostilles are, okay? Currently, the State Department website, which handles the apostilles, says they are taking 11 weeks to process. All right, so to try and get around this, once you send the apostille paperwork into the State Department, reach out to your congressperson or senator's office. We have been told that most of them will help you expedite the apostille and that they have been incredibly helpful, all right? The consulates of Spain, each of them have different requirements and timelines. Reach out to them if you have any questions. Now, some of them have outsourced to a company called BLS this year. The consulate website, your consulate website, will tell you if they have outsourced or not. Only Miami, Boston, Washington, D.C., and Chicago have outsourced, not LA and not any of the other consulates, okay? We've heard from people who think that in LA, BLS is handling the visas. No, in LA, it's the consulate. Make sure you read carefully the information on your consulate website. They will note there if BLS is involved. The links to the consulate websites can be found under our applying for a visa section on the Nalcap website. If someone can put the link in the chat, that would be very helpful. If you are dealing with BLS, reach out to BLS directly for questions via email, not their call centers, okay? They're having some glitches, which is normal as they are just beginning to navigate this process. We are working with them to try and resolve any possible issues. Some of you have written telling us that BLS has asked for your accommodation in Spain. This is not necessary for a Nalcap visa. If they insist, just give them your school address, okay? And make sure that you take a printed copy of your appointment confirmation email to BLS on the day of your appointment, just in case. Almost all of the consulates will issue you your NIE, which is a number that is needed for your residency card once in Spain. It can be found on your visa. You'll see it. When you receive your visa, you'll see the NIE there. If your consulate hasn't been able to provide this, I don't want you to worry. You can still get it in Spain when you apply for your DIE, which is the residency card. Please don't leave Spain without your visa. You cannot get a visa in Spain, and you need it to be legal in Spain. Even if you hear other information, please do not leave the States or Canada without your visa. This is the information that the consulates have provided us with, okay? And also, don't buy your airplane ticket until you have your visa, or buy a ticket which allows you to change the dates. You never know when you're going to receive your visa. And we have seen instances when on the day of the flight, people didn't have their visas and they lost the flight. Okay, so please don't do that. We understand that flights are really expensive, but maybe try and work it out with getting like a ticket where you're able to change the dates, okay? And then once in Spain, you have to go to the Oficina de Extranjería. You will need to apply for a TIE, which is your residency card. You need the TIE to be legal the entire 8 or 9 months that you will be in our country and be in the Nalcap program. Jesse will be explaining more on this later on in the webinar. Okay, I also want to show you and emphasize the Nalcap website, okay? All the information on the program can be found here. It's nalcapspain.com, okay? You have there a contact us section with all the contact information for the different offices involved in the program, except for the consulates, which are on the applying for a visa section, as we already mentioned, okay? And also on our website, we have a section that's called What to Expect in Spain, all right? Here, you're going to find a greater focus on helpful information on what to expect once you get to Spain. This information is provided by the Ministry of Education of Spain. You're going to have different documents like guidelines for language assistance, description of your tasks, sample classroom activities, and other information for once you arrive in Spain. The ministry has not yet updated these docs for 2023. They will shortly though, but the information doesn't really change much from year to year. So definitely take a look at this section of the website at your earliest convenience. It's going to be very helpful. All right, before going to Spain, contact your school as soon as you get the name of your school. Remember that your school will be on, the name of your school will be on your letter of acceptance, okay? Establish a good rapport with them from the beginning. They can be very helpful with issues concerning housing, your TIE, and other things. Schools may be closed in July and August, so please be patient with them. Stipends. Please know that you will not be receiving your first stipend until the first week of November, because they are sent out on a monthly basis, not every 2 weeks like we're used to here in the United States and Canada. So, you know, just to build a picture for you, you'll be getting to Spain in mid or late September, right? Then in October 1st, you'll start being a language assistant at your school. You will be at the school all the month of October. And then you won't receive your grant until November. So that's almost 2 months after you've arrived in Spain, okay? And then also randomly, some regional education offices sometimes experience administrative issues, and that can also delay the stipends. Make sure, please make sure you take to Spain enough money to cover your initial expenses through December. You will have many at the beginning. That happens anytime we move. If you were to move to another city in the United States or Canada, it would be the same. For example, the deposits that you have to leave for renting your house. All this information is on our website and in the documents that you can find there. Most assistants leave with about $3,000, but you know that this is very personal and depends on each person's lifestyle and spending habits, and also where you are placed. Obviously, small towns are going to be cheaper than cities. Okay, as for meds, if you have a chronic illness, we strongly recommend taking your medication with you, especially for the first months until you find your bearings. For example, I have asthma, and when I came from Spain to the United States, I brought a whole bunch of inhalers with me, okay? Your medical insurance does not cover medication, but they are usually much, much cheaper than in the US and Canada. You're going to be shocked with these prices. In general, your insurance covers all doctor's visits and hospitalization, and some dental and vision expenses. You will have to check with your regional education office for that information, and that's usually provided once you are in Spain. Okay, unlock your phone before leaving so that you can put a Spanish SIM card once you get there. Katie will be explaining a little bit more on phones later on. And your role as a language assistant. Your school will be assigning you a mentor to guide you through life at your school. Go to them if you're experiencing any issues. As to your role, I want to be very clear, you are not a teacher. You are there to support the teacher, not be the teacher. You should not be left alone with an entire class of students. You should not be responsible for grading or talking to parents. In the unlikely event that you encounter some sort of difficulty, please discuss this with your mentor or the coordinator or the principal. And if that doesn't work, to escalate, contact your regional education office. All right, there's some documents that you need to make copies of to take to Spain and also to have. So before you hand in, for example, the paperwork for your visa application, you should make up copies of certain things. You know what? You might not need them, but if you do, you're going to be really, really happy that you have them. All right. So copies of your passport with the information page and the visa page. The information page is where it has your name and your date of birth and all of that, and of the page where your visa is. The medical certificate you used for your visa application, the background check you used for the visa application, the letter of acceptance, which in Spanish we call la carta de nombramiento, your vaccination card, especially if you've been vaccinated for COVID, and anything else your school or regional education office has asked you. Okay, next topic, pets. Now, they're really adorable, but I really want to ask you that if you're thinking of taking your pets to please, please give it careful consideration. The move to Spain just for yourself is going to be, it's going to have a lot of challenges. And with your pets, you're going to have even more. It's not easy finding housing with pets. But of course, this is totally up to you and a very personal decision. We have some videos posted on TikTok and Instagram on this subject. And also, if you write to our email, we can provide some further information. Nalcap has social media accounts on TikTok, on Instagram, and on LinkedIn. Please follow us for the most updated information. The handle is @Nalcap Spain. Also, we would like to take this opportunity to thank those administrators of Facebook and Reddit groups and other social media accounts and blogs that are incredibly helpful with sharing experiences about the program, and also to the people who participate on them as well for sharing. Thank you for the enormous contribution that you make to the program and how much you help and guide the participants. Okay. The Ox Life by Nalcap and Spotify. These are podcasts. We already have season 1 and 2. They're already up. Listen to our podcast. There is so much information you can find on there. You'll hear from language assistants who have gone through the process, offering advice and telling you all about their different experiences. We have podcast episodes about living in a small town, about culture shock, perspectives from language assistants and perspectives from the teachers that they work with, about food, about fiestas, and about love also, and falling in love, okay? Season 3 will be out this week, so check it out. I promise it'll be really, really helpful. Okay, and so we're done with this part of the webinar. I'm going to pass it over to the interns now. Okay, I'd like to introduce them. There's Katie and Dana and Riley and Jessie. Katie, why don't you start off introducing yourself?
Okay, hello, I'm Katie. I am in Almeria, which is a small city located in Andalusia, on the coast of southern Spain. I have nothing but positive things to say about this program. I've met a lot of amazing people and almost learned a second language.
You have to keep on trying. Okay, Dana, what about you?
Hi, I'm Dana. I was an auxiliar in a small town called Portugalete, which is about 15 minutes outside of Bilbao. It's a really super charming coastal town, and it was the best experience I could have asked for.
Okay, fantastic. Jessie, what about you?
Hi, my name is Jessie. I was an auxiliar in Elche, which is in the province of Valencia.
Great. And Riley, what about you?
Hi, I'm Riley. I'm an auxiliar in the region of Murcia, but right now I'm based in San Pedro del Pinatar. And this upcoming school year, I am based in Galicia. So I'm going to the other side and I'll be enjoying that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Riley. Okay, so why don't we start off with the 6 big topics? The first one is cell phone and the internet. Katie, why don't you begin telling us about that?
Okay, wonderful. So first, just to tackle the question of, do I need a Spanish SIM card? Do I need a Spanish number? I would say absolutely yes. First, US international plans or Canadian international plans are typically very expensive. And even if they're not, they don't work very well here. The other thing being that if you need any sort of verification text message sent when you're setting up a bank account or literally anything, and you have a US number, that is going to make things a lot more difficult. So just to clear that up, you definitely want to get a Spanish SIM card when you move here. And how do you go about doing that? It's actually very simple, but before you even worry about getting to Spain and doing it, you must make sure that your phone is unlocked prior to leaving the US or Canada. If you're not sure what this means, the best route is going to your phone carrier and talking to them in person or calling them and let them know that you're moving to Spain. You will be getting a new SIM card and you need to make sure that your phone is unlocked before you go. Sometimes, most of the time in my experience, this means that the phone needs to be paid off. So if you just got a brand new phone and you still owe $500 on it, you want to make sure that you square that all away. However, I have heard from other auxiliares that their carrier has not required the phone to be paid off. So like I said, contact your carrier, let them know, they'll know exactly what you mean, but the phone has to be unlocked. Otherwise, you will not be able to get a SIM card once you get to Spain. As for when you actually get here, when you're talking to your carrier, I would let them know or ask if there's any other international plans that you could add, maybe for the first month, because while you can immediately go to a carrier in the airport, you know, a lot of the times they're closed, or you might have a really quick layover that you need to get somewhere. So I would say give yourself like a week to figure this all out. I used T-Mobile international plan for like 2 weeks before I figured it out. And when you're ready to do that, you're just going to go into any of the Spanish phone carriers' office. Most commonly used here is going to be Vodafone, Orange, or Movistar. And there are some links that will be sent that will cover all of this as well. And you're going to just want don't forget to bring your passport. Don't do what I did my first year and walk 30 minutes in 95-degree weather, not to have your passport with you. So you need some form of identification with you to get that all started. And once you go in and tell them that you need a SIM card, they're going to ask you if you want a contract or a prepaid kind of plan. And for a contract, you typically won't be able to do that because they're typically a minimum of 12 months. And they need a lot more information from you. Like they'll maybe need your TA card, or they'll need a bank account, which you probably won't have set up yet. So my advice would be to set up a prepaid plan. I pay 15 euros a month. I've never run out of data. It's plenty. There's actually even cheaper plans that I could probably switch to, but anticipate spending absolutely no more than 20 euros a month, and even having cheaper options. So that is that. As for internet, you can call or go into the office. Again, this is going to be most commonly, I believe, is Movistar, at least in the area that I'm in. Tell them that you need Wi-Fi. They are going to, in my experience, they will need your bank account. So you might have to wait a little bit longer because they're going to have to charge your bank account information. And they're going to want some form of identification, but you can call them, give them your address. And again, in my experience, they said, okay, we'll send someone out in 3 to 5 days. And just like in the US, somebody comes, gets it all set up, and you're good to go. And then of course, also just like in the US or Canada, when it's time to leave, make sure that you contact them, you tell them, and that you return the router. So yeah, I think on my end, that covers the like must know essentials for SIM card or internet. So if any of the other interns have something to add, feel free, or if I missed something.
Does anyone want to add anything else onto that? It was pretty clear, right? Yeah, okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Katie. All right, so the next topic is going to be bank accounts. So Dana, take that away. Oh, someone's asking about how much internet is a month.
Oh, I pay 20 euros a month, and I think the previous year it was 15. So again, just like your phone plan, it's anywhere from 15 to 20 euros a month.
Okay, fine. All right. Thank you, Katie. All right. So Dana, bank accounts. What can you tell us about that?
Hey everyone. So I do have a couple questions on this one, and I want to make sure to cover them. So primarily the main questions have been around, when do I open a bank account? What's the process, and like, where do I open a bank account? So all super valid questions. And I just want to let you all know at first, definitely don't be worried about the process. It's actually really straightforward. And the best thing that you can do is maybe just even before you go, just research some banks in Spain, perhaps see which ones you'd want to bank with. But in terms of when to open a bank account, for me, I arrived nearer to the school year. So for me, it was a matter of opening a bank account really soon into being into Spain. However, if you're arriving a month before or however long before, that's up to you. It is important to have. And the reason that I waited to open up my bank account until the first week of school was because I wanted to get my proof of employment. So just go on ahead and shop around at different banks and see which one you would have the documents for, because every bank has a few different requirements. But that takes us to sort of the process of opening up a bank account. This process is really straightforward. If you go into, what I did was I shopped around a little before. There's a lot of banks. There's like Banco Santander, BBVA, and about 3 others that are really well known. So go around, ask them what documents are needed, and go on ahead and prepare those documents and bring them in, and you'll have a teller or an attendee that will help you fill out the paperwork and will take your documents and open up the bank account for you. Typically, the documents that you need are a valid unexpired passport, which you'll definitely have that on you. A document to prove your address, such as a recent bank statement or a utility bill that's less than 3 months old. A document to prove your employment status. So for that one, what I did was I went to the admin at my school and I asked them for a proof of employment, and they provided that to me, and I took that to the bank. And then you sometimes need to have an empadronamiento. In my case, I don't think that was the case for me. So And then also make sure to bring around 20 to 50 euros with you, because most banks will require that you make an initial deposit. So it's a standard procedure. And
Dana, let me interrupt a second. You mentioned empadronamiento. Could you explain what that is? Because I'm sure a lot of people don't know what an empadronamiento is.
I think that someone is going to explain that. But most of the time, what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, what that is that that's a statement that you live, that you are now contracted under a contract with a housing. So it is a housing agreement, more or less, in more or less terms.
It's you tell the city hall where you are that you're living at this address, and they provide that document for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
All right, great. And then I've gotten some other questions about, do I need to pause my American bank account or close that? No, you don't have to. I would recommend not doing that because you are going to go back to the States or to Canada, wherever you're from. And then in terms of what do you recommend in terms of how should you bring money with you? So if you go to a travel agency, a lot of them will provide you with prepaid travel debit cards that you can put money on before you go to Spain, and you can pull out cash using that. Another thing that you can use is go to your bank and ask them for a travel approved credit card. This one's really great because it doesn't have any fees, and most places in Spain are really super credit card friendly. So that way you can have that ready to pay for things until you get your first stipend. And then I've got the question as well, do I need to get a Spanish debit card? The answer is yes. That's going to be super important for you, especially after you receive your first stipend. You can pull out cashes at the ATM. One question I got was, are there fees to pull out money? If you're using your Spanish ATM card, there are no fees to pull out money. And then there was also the question of, do you need to find housing before? Again, that just depends on the bank. If you're working with an international bank, like with Banco Santander, I did not have to have the empadronamiento. So just go on ahead and double check, shop around. But to sum it up, it's really a super simple process. Go to the bank that's nearest to your home, ask them what documents you need, make sure you grab those documents and bring them in, and you'll be set and ready to go.
Thank you, Dana. Does anyone have any other experiences to add on to this? Riley?
I just want to say I use an online bank called N26, and I've had really good experience with it. I know some people use physical banks in Spain as well, but I know people are shopping around for different ones, and I've had good experiences with mine. The one other thing I wanted to add with banking as well, something I highly recommend doing, not with a Spanish bank, but with your American or Canadian bank. Maybe try to add one of your parents to your bank account for, unforeseeable reasons. You might need to get something from your bank, or you're locked out for some reason. It's always really good to have a secondhand man in the States if you need cash somehow, or you need to transfer it and something's going awry.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Anybody else? Jesse or Katie? Anything with bank accounts? No? Okay, I just want to mention also that if you're going to bring over like an American credit card, make sure it doesn't have any exchange fees, because some of them, like it's awful. I get really upset about the exchange fees, right? So make sure they don't have foreign transaction fees, so that you can use them and they don't charge you a whole bunch. And there's also a lot of people also transfer through a company called Wise. And it works really well, and it's very easy to transfer dollars to euros and then euros to dollars, and it works really well. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Dana. All right, so then now we're going to talk about housing. Okay, so Riley, why don't you take it away?
Okay, thank you. I made that little one and I like that a lot.
You did, that's why you put it on you. Yeah.
So I'm gonna try and fit housing into just a couple of minutes here. I feel like there is so much information to go on with housing, and I'm going to try and put it in as small of a box as I can with giving you guys as much information. Just like that video, I do first of all highly recommend, once you get your contracts and you know where your school is and you know your school, contact them first. I would introduce yourself, and then in that introduction, I would say, I am looking for housing. Do you know of anyone who has housing in the area? Because most of the times the school has been with this program more than once, and they already know people who know apartments in the area. I also highly recommend you get an apartment in your town, unless it happens to be a highly trafficked area. It's going to be much easier for you to walk to your school instead of getting a train that's going to take 20 to 30 minutes or a bus that's going to take 20 minutes. The closer you are to your school, I guarantee you the better time you will have. So living in the smaller towns, one, you get a better sense of Spain when you're living in these smaller towns too. And there does happen to be cheaper rent in these smaller pueblos as well. The places I guarantee that you will find housing are going to be Idealista and Facebook Marketplace. Facebook Marketplace and the Facebook groups of the auxiliary websites are going to be your best options. Type up a message to people and say, hey, or like in the group chats and say, hey, I'm looking for housing, and see who wants to house together. A huge thing I've been seeing is whether you should get a roommate, live with other people, or rent your own apartment. That is, it's a personal decision. It's also a financial decision. If you rent with other people, rent is obviously going to be a lot cheaper. I happen to live with my partner, who is also an auxiliary, so it makes it very easy for us. We just rent an apartment together. But if you're in a larger city like Madrid, you're most definitely going to be renting a room with probably a couple different people. This will be really great because, one, you get to visit the city together, you get to learn together, and you kind of get to go out and explore together. The other thing I recommend is with contracts. I bet a lot of people have questions for contracts. How do I get contracts? How do I sign up for the contracts of a rental? They're going to ask you for a couple other of things. They're probably going to ask you for your NIE or a copy of your visa once you get here. They're going to ask you for possibly a copy of your passport. And sometimes they ask for cash, and then sometimes they ask for your IBAN, which is your bank account number, so you can send that to them directly through your Spanish bank account, your rent. I'm just going through a couple of the questions here that you guys had asked in the beginning as well.
Riley, I wanted to ask, you spoke about roommates. What do you guys think is the best way to find roommates if you're looking for them?
I definitely think it's through Facebook and the WhatsApp groups. So as long as you message and like you create a little message in those chat groups and say, hey, I'm blah, 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 and I'm going to be living in Villa Garcia de Arosa, which I'll be living in next year. That is a great way to connect with people. And whether that's you're going to get an apartment together or you're just looking for a room, there are people out there everywhere looking for the exact same thing. I do recommend being persistent as well. So keep at it every day. It is a little bit of a harder task once you get here. And that being said, I know some people will be looking for apartments before you get here. Make sure you have your contract and you know which town you're going to be in before you start looking for housing. You can start looking for housing, but I don't recommend putting anything down or paying anyone online until you are in Spain and there physically to look at the apartment, or maybe your school has someone to look at the apartment for you. My personal recommendation is getting an Airbnb for a week or two and then going apartment hunting physically while you're here in your town.
Okay, Riley expressed it perfectly, but I'm just going to emphasize it again. Do not rent an apartment until you get to Spain and you're able to see it with your own eyes, where it's located, what it's like. Do not do this, okay? This is very important that you're very clear about it. I know you're trying to be proactive and maybe you think I don't have much time before school begins. Do not do this, please, okay? And then also, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, there are Facebook groups and like WhatsApp groups specifically for the different areas, right? Yeah. Not like, right? So that would be the best place to go to find these things, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, just to quickly jump in with that, usually you find I know someone asked in the comments, how do you find the WhatsApp groups? You can find the WhatsApp groups on the Facebook groups because a lot of times the admins of the WhatsApp group have to add you to the group. So I would say go on to Facebook, find your region or your city. It could be like Nalcaps of Elche or whatever your group is. And get on, ask if you can be added to the group, and then they will add you to the WhatsApp group.
That's great. Thank you, Jessie. Those have to be incredibly helpful for this, right? Okay. Anything else that you guys want to talk about housing, Dana?
Can I just add one thing? And I think this is more a personality thing. I know everyone's not like this, but I would say that for myself, I didn't use Facebook or WhatsApp groups at all. What I did was when I landed there, I had like rented out a hotel for a few days beforehand, and I ended up just asking the people that worked at like the reception, do you know anyone who's like has housing? And I started just asking people, and I ended up getting just such a cool opportunity by way of doing that. So a lot of people in your direct communication know people who are renting rooms as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Dana. That makes perfect sense. Anybody else want to add on anything there? There was a question that if they ask you for proof of income, if you're renting.
Yes, what I use is the contract that we get. So, and most landlords are familiar with this because there's so many of us, I think, around Spain. Getting that contract from your school is your proof of your income and your proof of your employment. And that's probably the second biggest piece of paper that they'll ask for in your rental contract.
Right. And there's probably lots of people who rent out apartments and stuff specifically to language assistants, right, throughout the years.
Yeah, you'll see in Spain that the rental times are very allocated towards English teachers or teachers for the seasonal.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, yeah. Are we done with housing? Okay, so now the next topic is Jesse's going to tell us about NIAs and DIAs. Now, this is bureaucracy, and it's not as fun as the other topics. I appreciate Jessie taking it on, but she explains it wonderfully. So go ahead, Jessie, take it away.
All right. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to share my screen with you all really quickly because I made a document about DA and NIA information. So basically, when you hear people say NIA, that is just a number that you're assigned for just like an identification number. And then the DA is the actual physical card that you get. It stands for tarjeta, which means card. De identidad de extranjero. Extranjero means like foreigner, or like you don't live in that, or you're not a citizen of that country. So basically, when you get your passport and your visa inside your passport, that will have your NIA number. And then once you get to Spain, you have to use that NIA number through this process to get your actual physical card of identification. So your visa is only valid for 90 days once you get to Spain. So you need to get your appointment to get your card as soon as possible. So what you have to do is you are going to access this website to ask for a cita previa, or a for an appointment, basically. So you're going to go into that, choose the province that you live in, and select an office that's within that province.
Let's see, can I
And you want to,
when do you recommend people getting an appointment on this website? Like before I'm looking for Spain? What is Jesse or anybody else?
yes. Yeah, so I would recommend as soon as possible. So obviously you have to set the appointment for after you will arrive to Spain because you have to be there physically. But if you can ask for the appointment while you're still here, like if you say, oh, I know that in a month from now I will be in Spain, I can go online and try to get that appointment as soon as possible, because a lot of times there's not a lot of appointments available, or the website might be glitchy, so you might have to reload it a couple times for it to work. So I would say start looking for an appointment so that you can make an appointment for when you will be in Spain, because it is pretty, you have a timeline within 90 days, you have to have your physical card. So I would say try to get an appointment for at this police station or the extranjeria as soon as possible.
Right, that's really good advice, because then also it's going to depend on if you're in a big city. In Madrid, it's much harder to get an appointment than if you're in a smaller place somewhere else in Spain. So that's also something to think about. Okay, sorry for interrupting, Jesse.
Nope, all good. So the appointment that you want to get is called the Toma de Huellas, which is basically like fingerprinting, so that they have you in their system. So I know you did fingerprinting to get your background check here, but you also need to get your fingerprints there as well. So that's the appointment that you're going to get that's going to start off this whole process. So then once you do accept, you have to fill in your NIE number, which when you get your visa, if you flip to the visa page in your passport, it's going to tell you your NIE, that number. So you will already have the NIE number in your visa. So you're just going to fill that in, your name, what country you're from. So if you're from the United States, that's going to be abbreviated as EEUU. And you're going to click accept. And then solicitar cita is look for the appointment. So then once you choose an appointment, you're going to print out the confirmation page of that appointment, and you need to bring that to the appointment. It's one of the requirements. So the things, and then I also said try at different times of the day, because sometimes it may show up that there's not appointments available. Sometimes they'll release appointments later on. So just keep trying with that website, because it can be temperamental, or it may be they release them and then people just sign up really quickly. So just keep trying with the website. So then the things that you need to bring to this appointment, the carta de nombramiento, which is that acceptance letter that gives all the information with your school and agreement, have that printed out. And a lot of times they ask for copies. So it's good to just have like a couple copies of each of these things, maybe like 1 or 2 copies. So you're going to need that document. And then they also ask for a special size picture in color. So you can either print that out at home on like photo paper, but make sure that it's the correct dimensions that are listed here. Or in Spain, they have a lot of photo booth areas where you can go and then click Foto de Carnet, and they know the exact size to print it out in. You can do either one. So that's up to you. And then they're going to ask for copies of all of the pages in your passport to bring to this appointment. And I know in the past, I was able to copy it before I got to Spain, but I did recently see on the website that some police stations are asking for the copies with your stamp to enter into Spain. So if you want to err on the side of caution, I would say copy the pages in your passport after you arrive in Spain, so that you have included that page with the stamp for when you arrived in Spain, just to make sure that you are checking all your boxes. And then also they want you to bring your physical passport to the appointment. So you need the copies of all the pages and your physical passport to show them. And then there's also this form that's called the EX17, which is linked right here as well. You're just going to click on that, fill out all the information, and they want 2 copies of that. So those are the things that you need to prepare for that appointment. And then you will also need to pay this tasa. This tasa is a fee or a tax. The fee is usually around 16 to 20 euros. So, and it will say on the form how much that tax is. And what you have to do is, there is this other link that has this form. You're going to click on that form, fill it all out, and print it out. And then you will be able to go to an ATM or a bank and scan that barcode that's on this form and pay the tax. Yeah, so once you have that, then the only other thing, so the confirmation is that page printout after you schedule the appointment, and then the empadronamiento, which Dana talked a little bit about earlier, but basically that is where it says that you live where you are going to be living in Spain. So what you have to do to get that is you will have to, once you have your housing contract, take that to the city hall in Spain and have it approved there. And then they will give you this certificado, this certificate, this document that says she really lives where she says she lives. So once you have that document, you can bring all of these things to the appointment, and they'll take your fingerprints at the appointment, and then they'll tell you when you can go pick up your card, your ID card. And usually they say that you can pick it up between 30 and 45 days after your initial appointment. But they will tell you, because it's different. Like sometimes they'll say, oh, you can come on a Tuesday between 2 and 4 p.m. or, oh, you can come at this day at this time. So just pay attention to when they tell you to come pick it up. And I think that's all that I have with the TNEA.
Jessie, thank you so much. That's just so hard. There are people asking if you're able to share this document. How can we do that?
Yeah, so I did share the link with you. I have it. I actually can see that a few people are already on this link, but we can get that out and share it. And I know when we post the this video on YouTube, we can put it in the comment section as well.
Perfect.
But I have, I have the link open to whoever has the link. They can access this document.
Oh, that's super generous of you. Thank you, Jessie. So send me the link and we will include it there once the YouTube video is on there. Okay. Anybody else want to talk anything about Nias and Tias, any experiences they had? Riley?
I just wanted to make a comment to when you're at these appointments. I recommend trying your hardest to practice your Spanish while you're there. Especially the police officers and the officials working for your paperwork will appreciate any and all Spanish that you can offer them while you're doing that official paperwork.
Yeah, that's great. And if you're lucky enough that someone from your school is willing to go with you, that's like the perfect situation. Yeah.
Yeah, I could jump onto that. That's what I did with my appointment, where I talked to my mentor, my tutora from my school, and I said, hey, I feel like a little nervous about going by myself. Like I feel pretty secure in my Spanish, but I am just nervous about, going through the process by myself. What if I miss something? And so I asked her to come with me, and she did. And it really helped having someone who knows the systems and everything to be there with you through the process.
Oh, for sure. Even if you do know the language, you just get so nervous because there's so much stuff that for sure. Yeah, that's wonderful. Wonderful. That's, that you're going to go through so many different processes that's why we always say that when you come back from Spain, you're going to come back a different person because you mature through these processes, even though you may cry and all of that. But it makes you a different person, and it makes you a better person. It really does. Okay, anything else on this topic? No? All right, so then let's head over. Jesse, if you could stop sharing your screen, please. And we'll make sure to get that link for that. Okay, and then the next topic is transportation. So we're back to Katie, and Katie's going to talk to us a little bit about transportation.
Okay, sweet. So regarding transportation, I know that this is an important topic because many of you will not be placed in city centers, so that will likely entail a commute. So my advice, first things first, would just to be to reach out to your coordinator. Like we've said, you want to email your school with the email that they provide, hopefully get in contact with your coordinator, or if you're able to find out who the previous auxiliar was at your school through, I know a lot of times on the Facebook groups, you can post and say, hey, I'm placed here, who has worked here previously, and you can get in contact with the previous aux to ask them what they did. And if you're not able to do that, like I said, contact your coordinator and say, do you know how the aux last year got here? Because that will be your best insight, is pulling on past experience. For example, I live in the city center of Almeria, but my school is about a 25-minute drive away. So when I contacted my coordinator prior to me even moving there, she said, I know 3 teachers that commute every day and you can definitely carpool with them. Gave me their number, no problems. And I just got in contact with the new auxes at my school next year and let them know the deal. So that is going to be your best bet.
So correct me if I'm wrong. A really good solution to this, especially in small towns, is to carpool with the teachers who work there, right?
100%.
And so you can live like in a bigger town if you want. You can live in the smaller town if you want to, but if you want to, you can live in the bigger town or even the city and carpool with the teachers, correct?
Yes. Yes. I remember when I found out where I was initially placed, I was a little discouraged because I was like, okay, I can commute from the nearest big city, but it's going to be, we're looking at like an hour and 20-minute bus ride for what is actually a 25-minute drive. But a way to tackle this is, like I said, to ask who is carpooling. And even if your coordinator doesn't know and has never dealt with this, when you start working there, start asking where, in a not creepy way, where do people live? How are people getting here? And I'm positive that there is someone in these scenarios where you're just like 20, 30 minutes outside of a much bigger city, that there are also teachers that will be making that commute and are more than happy to let you go with them. Of course, courteous to offer gas money to talk about that, because we all know how insane gas prices are, but that is a really good way to tackle that.
And what you mentioned, Katie, it's really important during your whole time in the program to try and be proactive, whether it be in your personal life and the professional one also, right? Try to reach out to people and ask them, like Dana mentioned how she found the housing, like you're saying about the transportation. That's really important, you know, that's and it'll help in your experience during your stay in Spain in the program.
100%. Because sometimes your coordinator just might not know who is making that commute. So it is up to you, if they don't have that information, to possibly have to seek it out yourself. So aside from carpooling, when you move to your new city, your new pueblo, the first thing to do would be to get a bus card. I have never lived in Madrid, but I know that many of you will be. But regardless of that, every region offers some form of bus card that you're going to want to get. Don't be like me and pay €2 for a bus ticket and then find out a year and a half later that they're only 50 cents if you have a bus card. So make that a priority to, again, look in those Facebook groups, or even just like Google, like Andalusia public transportation card, and you're going to find something. In my region, you go to what's called a tobacco shop and you ask them for the card, you load it up, and you're good to go. And like I said, every region is going to offer something like that. And you want to look into it because it gives you a nice discount. As for looking into your route to get to your school prior to actually getting there, I would advise using Google Maps. In my experience, it's been far more accurate than Apple Maps. And so if you are curious and you kind of want to maybe plan out how you can do that, go on Google Maps, type in ideally where you'd want to live and exactly where your school is, and just look at your options. I think that covers everything on my end. If anyone else wants to add something, feel free.
Riley?
I know, like, I was placed in a smaller town, and everyone used bicycles to get around too. So I highly recommend that. Like, even if you are placed in a little bit of a bigger city, getting a bicycle is a great way to move around in small towns and in bigger towns.
Right, so that's very helpful. Okay, none of our interns this year are from Madrid, so they don't have the experience, but those of you who are going to Madrid, the public transportation is beyond excellent. And once you get there, somebody will be able to help you and navigate that, how to get the card and how to be able to move around. Okay, yeah, all right, thank you, Katie. All right, and so now our last subject, we're going to be talking about schools.
Okay, so this is my school. I'm just going to take you through a quick little tour. This is the main office with all of the administrative offices and the teacher's lounge where I spend my breaks or I'll eat my lunch. And then we're going to head outside because this is actually where the buildings are that the students have class in. There are 3 for each cycle. And here is the primary building or the first cycle building where I probably work in the most. So yeah, I just wanted to give you a little insight of what a school looks like here.
Katie, does that look familiar? Yeah, okay, so
that's my school.
That's just a little insight into what a Spanish school looks like. Okay, so Dana, take it away with this topic, please.
Great. Well, I'm happy we've reached the most exciting topic, school. So this is awesome. And also, just before I get into that, I just want to go ahead and like second what Lisa and Katie were saying about you have to be proactive in this process. That cannot come more into context when being at school. You just have to be proactive about the process and be willing to talk with your admin and with your point of contact. So basically, like, how do you prepare for your first day of class? This is an exciting one because really the first day of class, you should prepare a PowerPoint presentation showing a little bit about your culture and about your hometown and traditions, and be ready to present this at school on the first day. This is something that you'll probably will present in all of your classes. And it's exciting for the students because they get a chance to learn a little bit about you and your culture, and it opens room for conversation and relationship building, which really is the premise and the idea behind the Auxiliar program, is that you're there to aid the teachers in being an auxiliar de conversación. So you are an aid in conversation with these students. And because you're there, you're giving them a direct access to native English speaker. And that it's really important that that relationship building process happens early on in the beginning. So to sort of go into that, and I'm just going straight into, you know, what's it like to be at school and class, and I'll get to some of the other questions after. But in terms of creating engaging lesson plans and the amount of time you'll have to prepare. So in my case, and I believe this to be the case in all schools, is that, again, you are an aid to the teacher. So every teacher is following the curriculum and they're doing a lot of the lesson planning. And so a lot of times they'll have, you'll have to sort of review the lessons for the following day and just be, you know, prepared to teach the lesson in English. And any time that you need to prepare is mostly set apart within the school, within your work period of 16 hours or 12 hours, whatever it might be. So if you do not see that on your schedule, feel free to, you know, just talk to them and say, hey, I'm just looking to have a little bit of time to prep. And I'm sure that you'll receive some time to prep for your next class. they're really, really easy with that. So prepping outside of class, I've had some questions on this, how much time do I need to dedicate outside of my 16 hours, 12 hours of work? In my case, it was nothing, and it should be nothing. Lisa, you can go on ahead and clarify on that if I have any of that wrong, but in my case, it was definitely nothing. But what I did do was on my own time, any prep that I wanted to do, I considered it to be a extracurricular activity. Like I wanted to learn more and be better for the students and be able to provide them with cool lessons that they could really relate to. So again, that's on your own accord. You take that as you please. But it's cool to, at this point, you're given such a unique opportunity to teach and well, not to teach, but to aid in conversation. And so any prep that you can do is helpful. And on top of like, in terms of like what you wear to school, I sort of have, maybe I've termed this on my own, but I sort of call it smart casual. So I think the best way to think of it is stay modest. You are going to be in front of like high schoolers and middle schoolers and elementary school age children. So definitely keep it modest. You can obviously be trendy, but limit, oh, apologies, my AirPod might have fallen out. So what you should do is you should limit any shirts that have profanity on them or outfits that may be too revealing. You want to definitely steer clear of that. In terms of what will the first couple of weeks look like, this is all based on relationship building and asking the teacher what they need. So don't be afraid to ask the teacher, all right, how would you like me to prepare? Maybe sit down and talk with them. I had one question where someone said that they wanted to get in touch with their school and they've tried to email on the attached letter, but haven't gotten in contact with anyone. This is one of those scenarios where you just sort of have to stay flexible and remain cool, and just remember that, not so much this scenario, but in many cases at school, you're going to come across like unknown situations. And so the best thing that you can do in any situation is just to stay prepared, stay on top of your emails, stay on top of your contact, on top of your activities, and just be willing and ready to work with the school's dynamic.
Yeah. Anybody else want to jump in there?
Yeah, sorry, I don't want to go on.
Yeah. To mention anything about school? I mean, you've all had different experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say if you have a break period, or I know they have like little times for almuerzo, which you can like, it's a little snack time basically. Try to find the other teachers that you're going to be collaborating with and try to get to know them, and see like different ways that you can connect with them. Even if your Spanish isn't that great, like people will appreciate you trying. Or even like I was in a region where they spoke Valenciano, which is like a different language or dialect. And so I, found out how to say good morning. It's like bon dia. And so I went up to the Valenciano teacher and I was like, bon dia. And he was like, like he was all excited about it. So
they get very excited. Yeah. When you try and use their language and stuff, they really appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's from the heart. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And of course, like they know you're not going to be great at it. So just put in that effort and try to connect or see if there's something that you guys have in common. Or I know even with a different teacher, he asked me, he was like an older male, and he was like, do you like music? Do you like Pink Floyd? And I was like, my dad loves Pink Floyd. and then the next day he came to school with a guitar and started like playing Dark Side of the Moon. And I'm like, yeah, like, so it's like you have to try to find ways to connect with people, and maybe even people that you wouldn't normally connect with. And I don't know, just try to have fun with it. Try to get to know people.
For sure. For sure. Anybody else? No? Riley?
Yeah, I was just gonna add to that like I know every single day I went into the school, the kids were so excited to see me no matter what. So and I think doing that is like placing aside of maybe like whatever you're feeling that day and going into the classroom with a smile no matter what kind of gives them just like this great idea of like you're happy to be there. And in the end, it always lifted my mood going into the classroom because I always felt like a little superstar, like walking in there.
Oh, for sure. That happens a lot in the schools, a lot in elementary schools and smaller towns also. Yeah, for sure. Dana, did you want to wrap up? Because I interrupted you before.
Totally. Yeah. So I'll just say one last thing. The only other thing that you should keep in mind is even if you do know some Spanish, refrain from speaking any Spanish at the school. Your mission is to speak English to the students. So this teachers told me that I needed to tell the students I don't speak any Spanish at all, so that they wouldn't ask, and actually worked out really nicely. So I would say just try to refrain.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. Yeah, even if you know Spanish, never in the school, never, because your role there is to be a linguistic model for the students and to only hear you speaking in English. If they know, they're so smart, if they know you speak Spanish, they're going to be like, oh, I'll just talk to the language assistant in Spanish and try to get away with that. So that's something that's really, really important. Okay. All right. All right.
Definitely. Can I quickly jump in? I saw someone in the comments mention like, can you not speak Spanish at all in school? Like if you're in the teacher's room and there's only teachers there, like, yes, you can speak Spanish to try to connect with them. But if there are kids around or if you're in the classroom, try to stay to only Spanish so that they don't try to rely on their Spanish to communicate with you.
Right, for sure, for sure. That's a good point. Okay, so we're going to wrap up this part. And now we're going to start with part 3, which is the Q&A part. Okay, so I'm going to ask Olga, who's in Canada,
hello,
to share something with us. Okay.
Okay. Hello, I'm an education advisor at the Spain office at Canada. Bonjour, je suis consultante de l'éducation au Canada. Si vous avez des questions, n'hésitez pas à nous écrire en français ou en anglais sur notre chat. Concerning the questions, I want to say that many Canadian language assistants are asking about the cost of living in Spain. So don't miss our latest videos on our social media.
Come take a trip with me to the grocery store. I live in a medium-sized city in southern Spain, and it is rather affordable. You can definitely expect different prices in a bigger city. For context, these groceries should last me the entire week. I did already have some fresh produce and staples at home, but I don't plan on coming back for about another 7 days. Just like everywhere else in the world, inflation definitely has affected my city, but I still only spend about 40 to 50 euros on food every week. As you can see from today's total, it was 39 euros.
Sorry, I'm muted. So that was extremely helpful information. If you don't follow us on social media, you definitely should, because all these videos that we've shown today are on there. Okay, so let's take some questions. Jesus, can you pull out a question from the Q&A Zoom for us, please?
Yeah, there are lots and lot of questions, but some people insisted on the impact. How has the program impacted your life and career?
Oh,
Any
wow.
of you?
That's a really interesting question. Who wants to take that question? Jesse, you do.
And it's one of my favorite questions. Well, personally, it's impacted me a lot. I feel like I had a lot of self-growth through the process. It helped me with self-advocacy and with, like if I don't know something, I had to research it or I had to ask. And like, for me, like asking people questions is like, I used to be like really nervous to ask questions, but now after going through this process, it kind of helped me to be more of an investigator or more of like asking for what I need or finding out information on my own. So it really helped me with my advocacy skills, and just making connections with people in Spain. Like I made a lot of friends, and a lot of friends with other Nalcap members, but also people who are citizens of Spain, who I still talk with. So I feel like building connections was great, helped me to become more confident. As far as career-wise, I feel a lot more confident in my Spanish, and I feel like I did gain a lot of experience with this, and it looks great on a resume, and I just feel extremely benefited by this program.
That's a
Just
great
in a little short
That's-
sum up. I could talk all day about this.
Riley, what were you going to say? You're muted. You're muted.
I was just going to say, I feel like I've had a whole different lifestyle change since I've been here. The whole program in general has impacted me by just changing the way I do my day to day. Living in a different country, you just come to terms with how things are different too, in a good way. I feel like I'm more calm in Spain than I was in the United States. But even just like the little day-to-day things, it really changes how you live in a bigger perspective, coming down to the minute details in a good way.
That's great. That's great. Okay, Eliseo, how about you? Can you pull out another question for us, please?
Yes, we have a lot of questions here, but I picked one from Mariah in Austin, and she said, what was the hardest logical issue to sort out once you arrive in Spain?
The hardest logistical issue once you arrived in Spain. Which one was more challenging for you? Katie, do you have any ideas on that?
So I'm very lucky in the sense that I think a lot of things just went very smoothly for me, and I have an amazing coordinator who helped a lot. But I would say the most difficult or the most stressful would be housing. Both times I found housing within 2 weeks, but I really love my routine. I really love having my things. I like obviously unpacking. I don't like living out of a suitcase. And so for me, that first 2 weeks of like, you just got there, you're jet lagged, you're working, you're just so much is going on, and you're trying to find somewhere to live. That for me, I think was like the hardest logistic of just that time crunch and like trying to settle.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Dana, how about you?
For me, it was nothing was difficult. It was just that housing was the most process oriented, because I wanted to find a place that I really liked. So I just had not high expectations, but I just wanted to make sure my situation was exactly how I had pleased. So it took me about 3 days in total, sort of searching around, but that was it.
Okay, good, good, fantastic. Okay, Jose, do you have any questions from the YouTube live chat that you could share with us?
Yeah, thank you, girls, for sharing your experience and tips with us. That can be handy for sure. I have a question for you. Are there any item that you regret not bringing to Spain?
Oh yeah, a lot of people have been asking that, if there's something that maybe you forgot. I mean, there is everything that is in the United States, there is in Spain, except horseradish or something like that. I think there might not be horseradish in Spain, but what is there anything you guys can think of? Riley? You're muted, Riley.
I'm sorry, I keep doing it. I know the staple that I personally love that I haven't been able to find around here is boxed mac and cheese. But I live in a smaller town and I have to go into bigger towns to find it. But if you like a particular mac and cheese, I maybe recommend bringing 1 or 2 of those as like an American staple.
Okay. Anybody else? Katie?
So I remember when I was doing my research, everyone was like, peanut butter, bring peanut butter. So much so that I brought like 3, I love peanut butter, and I brought like 3 jars. But first, that's a lie. They have peanut butter here, and I'm in like a smaller city. But the one thing that was not an exaggeration, at least for where I live, was the deodorant. Spanish deodorant is not for me. I need the whatever we're putting in the American deodorant, I need. So, and I have not been able to find anything similar here. I don't think if you live in Madrid, if you live in Valencia, I don't think you'll have this problem, but that has been like the one thing where I'm like, yeah, like I'm packing that.
That's so interesting. Jesse, Dana, anything you guys can think of?
Honestly, there's not anything that I can think of in particular, but one thing that did kind of help me out is I got Amazon Spain, like Amazon Prime in Spain. I think it was like 35 euros or something. It wasn't crazy expensive, and that way I could get it shipped to my apartment if there's anything that I wanted or needed. So if you are someone that feels like there might be things that you need, like check for it. If it's on Amazon Prime, it might be in your interest to get a Prime account. I think I was the only aux that I knew though that had it. So it's not necessary, but if you feel like it might benefit you, it's something to look into.
Yeah, that sounds great. Make sure that your family knows that they can't send you care packages to Spain. There's a whole thing with customs, and sometimes it's much more expensive, the fees that you have to pay to get the package than what's actually in the package, right? So make sure that they send it to you another way, and no care packages allowed. Riley, what were you going to say?
Slight side note of what you should bring. Something that I found my kids have loved that I've brought is my favorite kids books in English. And like for my elementary students, they've absolutely loved that I've brought some of like the basic Cat in a Hat books, or just some basic childhood books that I love. They love that I brought them in English for them.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you guys if you have any recommendations for like teaching materials that you can bring over from the States that might be helpful. Riley just said books. That's wonderful. Anything else you guys can think of?
Card games. Apples to Apples is a game that I really wish I had brought over, and I can't really find it anywhere. I found Spanish Apples to Apples, but if you can bring the card game Apples to Apples for your elementary school, it is such a great game to play with them in English.
Anything else? Dana, do you want to add on anything to this topic?
Well, just to the topic just slightly before, like items you can't find. This wasn't personally a case for me, but I've heard it mentioned that like if you like to work out the gym and you have specific protein powders, you might want to consider those. I have had some friends who've had difficulties finding theirs, so.
Okay. All right. And so let's see. One last question. What was your best experience as a language assistant in Spain? So far for some, and for some, Katie?
Does it have to be? Okay, no, I'll answer it anyways. So it did not happen in the school. I had a million wonderful moments there, but one of my coworkers, as well as my coordinator, both took me to their pueblos outside of the work days. So there was one weekend that I got to go visit where they're from and where they grew up. And that will, I think, forever live as like my favorite weekend in Spain. We got to pick oranges. We got to eat local dishes. I met my coordinator's family. Like, it was a very intimate, really, really cool experience. And so that's something that you can look forward to. Not only will you be having a lot of fun in the classroom, but if you build those relationships, you'll have like amazing experiences outside of the school as well.
For sure. Pueblos are a lot of fun. Pueblos, for those of you who might not know, are small towns. And a lot of people are from small towns, but then they go and live in bigger cities, but then they visit family and stuff during the weekend or during the holidays and stuff. So it's always fun to go. Anybody else? Riley? Oh, okay. Dana, go.
Sure. So I was in a pueblo, and I just want to say I absolutely loved how many just local parades they had and events going on. So I lived in the Basque region, and there's constantly like festivals going on, and these kids get all dressed up for them, and it's really fun. You get to join in on them if you're working during that time. So look forward to that.
Wonderful. Thank you. Riley?
In between the school years, I had the opportunity to live in a small pueblo over the summer. And it was only because one of the teachers that I had known had an open apartment. And so we ended up spending 3 months in this very small town called Ibi. And by far, I would have never gone to that town. I would have never known about it unless I had contacted that teacher. And it's just still in my mind as like my favorite part about being here.
Wow, you guys are big Pueblo fans. Wow, wonderful. Oh, what about you, Jessie?
Oh, one of my favorite moments, it doesn't have to do with the Pueblo, but I was in kind of like a small medium city where I lived, and I had an apartment in the center, and there were always processions or parades happening. So if you live in a city, I would say try to spend time like in the downtown area, because a lot of times there will be something really cool going on. Or like my balcony opened up to, it was right in front of a church. So there were always parades and things going on. So I could just hear the music and I thought, oh, I got to go look out the window, and there was something cool happening. So that was one of my favorite memories of living in Spain.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for sharing. All right, well, we're going to wrap up now with a video that we feel has a very special message. I want to thank everyone for attending, and I want to thank everybody here, our interns, our colleagues, all of us. We worked really hard on the webinar, and we hope it was useful and that you were able to learn a lot. If you still have any questions, you can always write to us in our email, at our email address, okay? All right, so we'll see you all in Spain, everybody. Bye. Take care. Bye.
This is something really important to remember both before and during your Nalcap journey. You're not a tourist, you're an auxiliar. You're going to be living in Spain for several months. There's going to be a lot of pressure when people hear about you going to Spain or being in Spain to do something incredible and life-changing every day. But things you have to take care of, like grocery shopping and lesson planning. Try as best you can to ignore that pressure. You'll have plenty of time to have wonderful experiences. You'll have wonderful experiences during your work. So if you think, I'm not traveling enough, I'm not doing enough, you're doing so much already. You need time to relax and just simply enjoy wherever you are. So keep that in mind. It helps me a lot, and I hope it will help you too.
Bye. Take care, everyone. Bye. Bye-bye.